India, drainage. 30. Introduction. Drainage. The flow of water through well-defined channels is known as drainage. Drainage system, the network of such channels, rivers and their tributaries, is called a drainage system. River basin. A river basin is the portion of land drained by a river and its tributaries. It encompasses the entire land surface dissected and drained by many streams and creeks that flow downhill into one another. Water divide. The line which separates two adjacent drainage basins is known as water divide. It is often marked by an elevated area like a mountain or a plateau. Watershed. The catchment area for rainfall that is delineated as the drainage area producing runoff is called watershed. Generally considered as the area contained within a divide above a specified point on a stream. Drainage patterns. Over time, a stream system achieves a particular drainage pattern to its network of stream channels and tributaries as is determined by local geologic factors. Drainage patterns are classified on the basis of their form and texture. Their shape or pattern develops in response to the local topography and subsurface geology. Drainage channels develop where surface runoff is enhanced and rock materials provide the least resistance to erosion. The texture is governed by soil infiltration, and the volume of water available in a given period of time to enter the surface. Antecedent drainage. The rivers that existed before the upheaval of the Himalayas and cut their courses southwards by making gorges in the mountains are known as antecedent rivers. A part of a river slope and the surrounding area gets uplifted and the river sticks to its original slope, cutting through the uplifted portion like a saw and forming deep gorges. This type of drainage is called antecedent drainage. Example, Indus, Satluj, Brahmaputra and other Himalayan rivers that are older than the Himalayas. Consequent drainage. Consequent streams are the first streams to be originated in a particular region. These streams have their courses in accordance with the initial slope of the land surface. In other words, the consequent streams follow the regional slope. These are also called deep streams. The rivers which follow the general direction of slope are known as the consequent rivers. The longest stream of the whole system of consequent streams is called master. 31. Consequent. Most of the rivers of peninsular India are consequent rivers. For example, rivers like Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri. Subsequent drainage. A tributary stream that is eroded along an underlying belt of non-resistant rock after the main drainage pattern, consequent river, has been established is known as a subsequent river. The streams originated after the master consequent stream and following the axis of the anticlines or ridges and the strikes of beds are called subsequent streams. The Chambal, Sindh, Ken, Betwa, Tons and Son meet the Yamuna and the Ganga at right angles. They are the subsequent drainage of the Ganga drainage system. These streams have generally developed after the original stream. Superimposed drainage. Superimposed stream means a drainage that is formed when the nature and characteristics of the valleys and flow direction of a consequent stream developed on the upper geological formation and structure are superimposed on the lower geological formation of entirely different characteristics. When a river flowing over a softer rock stratum reaches the harder basal rocks but continues to follow the initial slope, it seems to have no relation with the harder rock bed. This type of drainage is called superimposed drainage. Dendritic pattern. Dendritic or tree-shaped drainage pattern is the most common and widespread pattern to be found on the Earth's surface. The pattern is called dendritic on the ground that the network of tributaries of various orders and magnitudes of the trunk or master stream resembles the branches and roots and rootlets of a tree. The dendritic pattern is associated with the areas of homogeneous lithologies, horizontal or very gently dipping strata, flat and rolling extensive topographic surface having extremely low reliefs. 32. Trellised pattern. Trellised drainage patterns are formed by the network of tributaries and master consequent streams which follow the regional slope and are well adjusted to the geological structures. Such patterns are developed in the area of simple folds characterized by parallel anticlinal ridges alternated by parallel synclinal valleys. Several streams develop on both flanks of the ridges and join the longitudinal synclinal streams at right angle. These tributary streams are called lateral consequent streams. Thus the resultant network of numerous longitudinal streams and transverse or lateral consequence is called trellised pattern. Rectangular pattern. Rectangular pattern shows some degree of resemblance to trellised drainage pattern as tributary streams in both the patterns join their master streams almost at right angle, but the confluence angle is guided by the strikes and deep angle of the rock beds in case of trellised pattern, while it is determined by the lines of weaknesses, e.g. faults and fractures and joints, of the rocks in the rectangular pattern. The second line of difference between these two drainage patterns is related to the spacing of streams, i.e. the rectangular pattern is characterized by widely spaced tributaries while trellised pattern has a dense mesh of closely spaced tributaries. Radial pattern. Radial drainage pattern, also known as centrifugal pattern, is formed by the streams which diverge from a central higher point in all directions. The streams emerge at the central point of the aforesaid reliefs and drain down the slopes in all directions. Since the streams follow the slopes and hence they are basically consequent streams. These streams resemble the spokes of a wheel or the radii of a circle. 33. Centripetal drainage. Centripetal or inland drainage pattern is opposite to the radial drainage pattern because it is characterized by the streams which converge at a point which is generally a depression or a basin. This pattern is formed by a series of streams which after emerging from surrounding uplands converge in a central lowland which may be a depression, or a basin or a crater lake. Annular pattern. Annular pattern, also known as circular pattern, is formed when the tributaries of the master consequent streams are developed in the form of a circle. Such pattern is developed over a mature and dissected dome mountain characterized by a series of alternate bands of hard and soft rock beds. The differential erosion of hard and soft rock beds results in the truncation of the beds, which produces ring-belted structure wherein relatively resistant beds project outward whereas the weaker, soft, beds form circular clefts. Drainage system in India. Indian drainage system can be divided into various bases. On the basis of discharge of water, it may be divided into Arabian Sea drainage and the Bay of Bengal drainage. They are separated from each other by the Delhi Ridge, Aravallis and the Sahyadris. On the basis of the size of watershed, drainage basins in India are grouped into major river basins with catchment area of more than 20,000 km sq, drainage basins like Ganga, Brahmaputra, Krishna, Tapi, Narmada etc., drainage basins with catchment area between 2,000–20,000 km sq, like the drainage basins of river Kalindi, Periya, Meghna, and minor river basins with catchment area less than 2,000 km². On the basis of the mode of origin, nature and characteristics, the drainage system in India is classified into the Himalayan drainage and the peninsular drainage. 1. The Himalayan drainage. The Himalayan drainage system has evolved through a long geological history. 34. Most of the Himalayan river system are perennial in nature. Rivers are fed by melting of snow and precipitation, which means they have water throughout the year. They receive water through melted snow from the Himalayas and also from abundant rainfall. The two major Himalayan rivers, the Indus and the Brahmaputra, originate from the north of the mountain ranges, trans-Himalayan rivers. They have cut through the mountains making gorges. The Himalayan rivers have long courses from their source to the sea. These rivers pass through giant gorges carved out by erosional activities carried on simultaneously with the uplift of the Himalayas. Other erosional features like V-shaped valleys, rapids and waterfalls are formed. Depositional features like oxbow lakes, floodplains, braided channels are formed in the middle and lower courses of these rivers. The Himalayan rivers have a very winding and rapid course in the upper reaches, but they show strong meandering tendency and shift in their courses in the plain regions. 1.1 Evolution of the Himalayan drainage. The geologists believed that there was once a mighty river called Indo-Brahma or Shivalik that traversed the 1. The Kosi River, Ganga river system, frequently changes its course causing floods all over Bihar, earning the title of Sorrow of Bihar. The Kosi brings huge quantities of sediments from its upper reaches and deposits them in the plains. In this way, due to overdue of sediments, its course gets blocked and consequently the river changes its course. Entire length, longitudinal extent, of the Himalayas from Assam to Punjab plains, onwards to Sindh and finally discharged into Gulf of Sindh during the Miocene period, 5 to 24 million years ago. The remarkable continuity of Sivalik and its lacustrine, associated with lakes, and alluvial deposits consisting of sand, clay, boulders support this viewpoint. It is believed that in due course of time this mighty Indo-Brahma river dismembered into three main drainage systems: Indus with its 5 tributaries in the west, the Ganga with its several tributaries in the central part and the Brahmaputra in the eastern part. This dismemberment was due to the Pleistocene upheaval in the western Himalayas, including the uplift of the Delhi Ridge, which acted as the water divide between the Indus and Ganga drainage systems. Similarly, the down-thrusting of the Malda Gap area between the Rajmahal Hills and Meghalaya Plateau during mid-Pleistocene period separated the Ganga river system from the Brahmaputra and diverted these two river flows towards Bay of Bengal. 1.2 The river systems of the Himalayan drainage. 1.2.1 Indus River System. Area: 65,000 square kilometers in total. In India, it is 321,289 square kilometers. It flows for a total length of 2,880 kilometers, 1,114 kilometers in India. The river originates in Bokhar-Chu Glacier in Mt. Kailash Range near Mansarovar Lake in Tibet at an altitude of 4,164 meters. It is known as Sangi Khamban or Lion's Mouth in Tibet. 35. It flows westwards and enters into India in Jammu and Kashmir, between Ladakh and Zanskar ranges, further flows through Himachal Pradesh, Punjab and enters Pakistan near Chillar in the Dardistan region. It cuts across the Ladakh range and forms a spectacular gorge at Gilgit in J&K. It has a large number of tributaries in both India and Pakistan and has a total length of about 2,880 kilometers from the source to the point near Karachi where it drains into the Arabian Sea. It enters Indian territory in Jammu and Kashmir by forming a picturesque gorge. It flows between the Ladakh range and the Zanskar range. It crosses the Himalayas through a 5,181 meters deep gorge near Attock, which lies north of the Nanga Parbat. In the Kashmir region, it joins with many tributaries, the Zanskar, the Shyok, the Nubra and the Hunza, left bank, and Khurram, Toki, Sangar and Gomal, right bank. River flows southwards to meet Panchnad, i.e. Satluj, Ravi, Bees, Chenab and Jhelum, a little above Mithanko. The Indus river system consists of the following rivers: Satluj, Ravi, Bees, Chenab and Jhelum, Zanskar, Nubra and Shyok and Hunza. Jhelum is an important tributary of Indus rising from a spring in Verinag in southeast Kashmir Valley. It flows through Srinagar and Wular Lake before entering Pakistan through a deep narrow gorge. It joins Chenab near Jung in Pakistan. Chenab is the largest tributary of Indus. It is formed by two streams, Chandra and Bhaga, which joins at Tundi near Kelong. In Himachal, Chenab or Chandrabhaga flows for 1,180 kilometers before entering Pakistan. The Ravi rises west of Rohtang Pass in the Kullu Hills of Himachal Pradesh. It flows through the Chamba Valley of Himachal. It enters Pakistan and joins the river Chenab at Sarai Sindhu and drains the area lying between the southeastern part of Pir Panjal and the Dhauladhar ranges. The Bees originates from Bees Kund near Rohtang Pass at an elevation of 4,000 meters. The river flows through the Kullu Valley and forms gorges at Kati and Laji in Dhauladhar range. It enters the Punjab plains where it meets the Satluj river near Harik. The Satluj originates near the Rakhaz Lake near Mansarovar at an altitude of 4,555 meters in Tibet, where it is known as Langchan Khambab. It flows parallel to Indus for 400 kilometers before entering India and comes out of a Goge at Rupar. It passes through Shipki La Pass and enters the Punjab plains. It is an antecedent river just like Indus and is a very important tributary. This river feeds the canal system of Bahakar Nangal project. Indus Water Treaty. It is a water distribution treaty between India and Pakistan. The treaty was signed in Karachi on September 19, 1960. It was signed by Jawaharlal Nehru from India and Pakistan President Ayub Khan. According Indus Water Treaty, 20% of total water discharged by Indus can be utilized by India. As per Treaty 3, Eastern rivers was given to India while control over the 3 Western rivers was given to Pakistan. B's, Ravi and Satluj was given to 36. India. Indus, Chenab and Jhelum to Pakistan. 1.2.2 The Ganga River System. The Ganga River System consists of the master river Ganga and a large number of its tributaries. The system drains a very large area comprising the middle part of the Himalayas in the north, the northern part of the Indian Plateau in the south and the Ganga Plain in between. The total area of the Ganga Basin in India is 861,404 square kilometers, which accounts for 26.3% of the geographical area of the country. This basin is shared by 10 states. These states are Uttaranchal and Uttar Pradesh, 34.2%, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, 23.1%, Bihar and Jharkhand, 16.7%, Rajasthan, 13.0%, West Bengal, 8.3%, Haryana, 4.0%, and Himachal Pradesh, 0.5%. The Union Territory of Delhi accounts for 0.2% of the total area of the Ganga Basin. The Ganga originates as the Bhagirathi from the Gangotri Glacier near Gomukh in Uttarkashi district of Uttaranchal at an elevation of 3,900 meters. Alaknanda joins it at Devprayag. The other tributaries of Alaknanda like the Pinda joins Bhagirathi at Karnaprayag while Mandakini meets Bhagirathi at Rudraprayag. But before Devprayag is reached, Pinda, Mandakini, Roliganga and Bishenganga rivers pour into the Alaknanda and the Bheling flows into the Bhagirathi. The combined waters of the Bhagirathi and the Alaknanda flows in the name of the Ganga below Devprayag. After traveling 280 kilometers from its source, the Ganga reaches Haridwar, debouches from the hills and enters plain area. From here it flows in south and southeast direction for a distance of 770 kilometers to reach Allahabad. Here it is joined by the Yamuna, which is its most important tributary. It sweeps another 300 kilometers eastwards to reach the Bihar plain. Near Rajmahal Hills it turns to the southeast and south of Farakka, it ceases to be known as the Ganga. It bifurcates itself into Bhagirathi Hooghly in West Bengal and Padma Meghna in Bangladesh. After traversing 220 kilometers further down in Bangladesh, the Brahmaputra, or the Jamuna as it is known here, joins it at Goalando, and after meeting Meghna 100 kilometers downstream, the Ganga drains into the Bay of Bengal. Before entering the Bay of Bengal, the Ganga, along with Brahmaputra, forms the largest delta of the world between two arms, the Bhagirathi, Hooghly and the Padma, Meghna, covering an area of 58,752 square kilometers. The delta front of the Ganga is a highly indented area of about 400 kilometers. The delta is made of a web of distributaries and islands and is covered by dense forests called the Sundarbans. A major part of the delta is a low-lying swamp. 37. Which is flooded by marine water during high tide. The total length of the Ganga river from its source to its mouth, measured along the Hooghly, is 2,525 kilometers, of which 310 kilometers in Uttaranchal, 1,140 kilometers in Uttar Pradesh, 445 kilometers in Bihar and 520 kilometers in West Bengal. The remaining 110 kilometers stretch of the Ganga forms the boundary between Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. The river flows majestically from Gangotri to Bay of Bengal with an average gradient of 9.5 centimeters per kilometer. The Ganga is joined by a large number of tributaries both from the left as well as from the right. Majority of them originate in the Himalayan ranges, but some of them have their sources in the peninsular plateau. Right bank tributaries are the Yamuna, which is a major river, and Son. Left bank tributaries, Gomti, Ghagra, Gandak, Kosi, Ramganga. The Yamuna is the largest and the most important tributary of the Ganga. It originates from the Yamunotri Glacier on the Bandarpunch peak in Garhwal in Uttaranchal, a source which is very close to that of the Ganga itself. The main tributaries joining the river include the Hindan, Betwa, Ken and Chambal. The Tans is the largest tributary of the Yamuna. The catchment of the river extends to the states of Delhi, Himachal Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. The Chambal River rises near Mahor in the Malwa Plateau of Madhya Pradesh and flows northwards through a gorge upwards of Kota in Rajasthan where the Gandhisagar Dam has been constructed. From Kota, the Chambal River traverses down to finally meet the river Yamuna. Chambal is famous for its badland topography called the Chambal Ravines. Gandak, which is a major left bank tributary, originates near the Tibet-Nepal border, receives a large number of tributaries in Nepal Himalaya, the most outstanding being the Kali. Others are the Mayangadi, Bari and Trishuli. The Gandak comprises of two streams, Kaligandak and Trishulganga, and enters the Ganga plain in Champaran district of Bihar and joins Ganga at Sonpur near Patna. The Ghagra river originates near the Gurla Mandhata peak, south of Mansarovar in Tibet. Obviously it is a river of the trans-Himalayan origin and carries sufficient water. It is known as the Kaneli in western Nepal. It first flows southeast and then south-southwest, cutting across the Great Himalaya through a succession of steep defiles. Its major tributaries are Tila, Seti and Berry. The Kosi River is an antecedent river with its source to the north of Mt. Everest in Tibet and consists of 7 streams and is popularly known as Saptkoshiki or Saptakoshi. These streams flow through a large part of eastern Nepal, which is known as the Saptkoshik region. Soon after debouching onto the plain, the river becomes sluggish and large-scale deposition of eroded material takes place. The river channel is braided and it shifts its course frequently. This has resulted in frequent devastating floods and has converted over 10,000 square kilometers of cultivable land into wasteland in Bihar. Thus the river is often termed as the sorrow of Bihar. In order to tame this river, a barrage was constructed in 1965 near Hanumannagar in Nepal. Embankments for flood control have been constructed as a joint venture of India and Nepal. 38. The Ramganga River rises in the Garhwal district of Uttaranchal at an altitude of 3,110 meters and enters the Ganga plain near Kalagad. It joins the Ganga at Kannauj after traversing a distance of 596 kilometers. The Kho, Gangan, Aral, Kosi, and Dioha, Gorra are important tributaries which join the Ramganga. The Kali River also rises in the high glaciers of snow-covered region of Milam Glacier of the Trans-Himalaya. It has several feeders in the high ranges and forms the boundary between Nepal and Kumaon for most of its transit across the mountains. It is known as the Sarda or Sarayu or Chauka after it reaches the plains near Tanakpur. Below this point it takes a southeasterly course and joins the Ghagra. Damodar occupies the eastern margins of the Chotar Nagpur plateau where it flows through a rift valley and finally joins the river Hooghly. Barakar is its main tributary. Once Damodar was known as the sorrow of Bengal because of frequent floods. But with Damodar Valley Corporation, a multipurpose project, the problem of flooding by Damodar has been addressed. The Mahananda is another tributary of Ganga rising in the Darjeeling Hills. It joins Ganga as its left bank tributary in West Bengal. The Son is another important right bank tributary of Ganga originating in the Amarkantak Plateau. After forming series of waterfalls at the edge of the plateau, it joins Ganga at Ara, west of Patna. 1.2.3 The Brahmaputra River System. The Brahmaputra originates in the Mansarovar Lake in Tibet. It is slightly longer than the Indus, but most of its course lies outside India. It flows eastward, parallel to the Himalayas. Reaching Namcha Barwa, 7,757 meters, it takes a U-turn around it and enters India in Arunachal Pradesh and known as Dihan. The undercutting done by this river is of the order of 5,500 meters. In India, it flows through Arunachal Pradesh and Assam, and is joined by several tributaries. The river is known as the Sangpo in Tibet. It receives less volume of water and has less silt in the Tibet region. The Rango Sangpo is the major right bank tributary in Tibet. But in India, the river passes through a region of heavy precipitation and as such, the river carries large amount water during rainfall and a significant amount of silt. It is known for creating the calamity in Assam and Bangladesh. The Brahmaputra has a braided channel for most of its passage through Assam. There is a constant shifting of the river channels and the sandy shoals. Majuli, which is the largest river island in Asia, lies in this river, in Assam. Tributaries: Bori Dihan, Dhansiri, left bank tributaries, Subansiri, Manas, Lohit, Kameng, Tista, right bank tributaries. The river then enters Bangladesh under the name of Jamuna, where it merges. 39. With the river Padma. It discharges into the Bay of Bengal. 2. The peninsular river system. Most of the peninsular rivers flow eastwards and enters into the Bay of Bengal, following the general slope of the land. Only Narmada, Tapti and Sabarmati rivers flows westwards of the Western Ghats. They are good for generating hydropower because these rivers form rapids and waterfalls. They are not perennial in nature, unlike the Himalayan rivers. The major peninsular rivers are Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri. 2.1 Evolution of peninsular drainage. Three major past geological events have shaped the present drainage system of peninsular India. Subsidence of the western flank of the peninsula leading to its submergence below the sea during early tertiary period, which has disturbed the symmetrical plan of the river on either side of the watershed. Upheaval of the Himalayas when the northern flank of peninsular block was subjected to subsidence and consequent trough faulting. Narmada and Tapi flows through these trough faults and fill the original cracks with detritus, waste material. Hence there is a lack of alluvial and deltaic deposits in these rivers. Slight tilting of the peninsular block from northwest to southeastern directions gave the orientation of the entire drainage system towards the Bay of Bengal. 2.2 Rivers of peninsular drainage system. 2.2.1 Godavari River Basin. Godavari rises in Trambakeshwar in the Western Ghats in Nasik district of Maharashtra. It is the largest peninsular river. Its length is about 1,500 kilometers. Its drainage basin is also the largest among the peninsular rivers. Because of its length and the area it covers, it is also known as the Dakshin Ganga. Also is called Vridha Ganga. It flows southeast across south-central India through the states of Madhya 4 Pradesh, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh and Orissa, and drains into the Bay of Bengal. The basin covers parts of Maharashtra. About 50% of the basin area lies in Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa and Andhra Pradesh. Some of the important tributaries of Godavari are Purna, Vardha, Pranhita, Manjra, Vinganga and Penganga. It is a seasonal river, dried during the summers and widened during the monsoons. The river forms a fertile delta at Rajamundry. The banks of this river have many pilgrimage sites, Nasik, Bhadrachalam, and Triambak. The Asia's largest rail-cum-road bridge which links Cove and Rajamundry is located on the river Godavari. 2.2.2 Krishna River Basin. The river Krishna rises from a spring near Mahabaleshwar in the Western Ghats. Its drainage basin is shared by Maharashtra, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. It flows around 1,300 kilometers and finally drains into Bay of Bengal. The Tungabhadra, the Koyna, the Ghataprabha, the Musi and Bhima are some of its tributaries. Tungabhadra River is the main tributary which itself is formed by the Tunga and Bhadra rivers that originate in the Western Ghats. 2.2.3 Kaveri River Basin. The Kaveri rises in the Brahmagiri range of the Western Ghats. Total length of the river is about 760 kilometers. Its basin drains parts of Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. Finally it reaches the Bay of Bengal in the south of Cuddalore in Tamil Nadu. The river Kaveri makes the second biggest waterfalls in India, known as Sivasamudram. The river has many tributaries called Akavati, Shimsha, Hemavati, Amravati, etc. 2.2.4 Mahanadi River Basin. The Mahanadi originates from the Satpura range of central India and is a river in the eastern India. Mahanadi River rises in the Chhattisgarh Basin. Total length of the river is 885 kilometers. It flows east to the Bay of Bengal. River drains of the state of Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, and Orissa. Cuttack city is located at the apex of the Mahanadi Delta. The largest dam, the Hirakud Dam, is built on the river. 2.2.5 Narmada River Basin. The Narmada rises in the Amarkantak of the Maikala Hills in Madhya Pradesh. It is also known as Lifeline of Madhya Pradesh. It flows towards the west in a rift valley formed due to faulting. On its way to the sea, the Narmada creates many picturesque locations. It outlines the traditional frontier between North India and South India. It is one of the major rivers of peninsular India. The river flows through the states of Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, and Maharashtra. It drains into the Arabian Sea in the Bharuch district of Gujarat. 41. Currently, 3 dams have been built in Madhya Pradesh and 1 is under construction in Gujarat, the Sardar Sarovar, Indira Sagar and Maheshwar dams. Local citizens formed the Narmada Bachao Andolan, Save the Narmada movement, a grassroots coalition of farmers, fisherfolks, landless farmers and urban citizens in India, strongly opposed to the projects and political agenda on water and energy of the governments of the 3 Indian states. 2.2.6 Tapi River Basin. It is one of the most important rivers of peninsular India with the run from east to west. It originates in the eastern Satpura range of southern Madhya Pradesh state. It flows in a westward direction, draining some important historic places like Madhya Pradesh's Nimar region, East Vidarbha region and Maharashtra's Khandesh in the northwest corner of the Deccan Plateau and South Gujarat before draining into the Gulf of Cambay of the Arabian Sea. The river basin of Tapi River lies mostly in eastern and northern districts of Maharashtra. The river also covers some districts of Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat as well. The principal tributaries of Tapi River are Waghur, Aner, Girna, Purna, Panzara and Bori. 3. Smaller rivers and lakes. Beside the major rivers of India, there are some smaller rivers, both of Himalayan and peninsular origin. The Damodar, Brahmani, Batarani, Sabarmati, Luni and Subarnarekha are some notable examples. There are many lakes in India formed out of different origins like volcano lakes, crater lakes, tectonic lakes etc. Divisions are also made on the basis of freshwater lakes or saline lakes, natural lakes or artificial lakes, inland lakes or lagoons. Difference between Himalayan and peninsular rivers. Himalayan river system, peninsular river system. Most Himalayan rivers are perennial in nature. They always have water throughout the year. They are seasonal in nature and are not perennial. They receive water from the rain as well as from melting of snow. They receive water only from rain. They have long courses from source to the sea. They have shorter courses from source to sea, antecedent and consequent drainage leading to dendritic pattern, superimposed and rejuvenated pattern resulting into radial, trellis and rectangular pattern. Very large basins, comparatively smaller basins. 42. 3.1 Smaller river flowing towards the east. 3.1.1 Damodar River. The Damodar River rises in the Palamau hills of Chotar Nagpur at an elevation of about 609 meters. It flows in a southeasterly direction entering the deltaic plains below Raniganj. The catchment area of the river above the confluence is fan-shaped and as such is susceptible to the concentration of flood flows, but the catchment below the confluence is narrow. The upper catchment is rough hilly areas denuded of forest and vegetal cover and is subject to erosion, while the lower catchment is silt-covered and fertile. There are no irrigation facilities in the upper catchment and the cultivation is solely dependent on monsoon rains. The river is famous all over the world for the Damodar Valley Corporation (DVC). 3.1.2 Subarnarekha River. The Subarnarekha Basin extends over states of Jharkhand, Orissa and comparatively smaller part in West Bengal, having a total area of 29,196 sq.km with a maximum length and width of about 297 km and 119 km. Situated in the northeast corner of peninsular India, the basin is bounded by the Chotar Nagpur Plateau on the north and the west, by the ridges separating it from Batarani Basin on the south, by the Bay of Bengal on the southeast and by the Kasai Valley of Kansabati River on the east. The Subarnarekha River rises near Nagri village in the Ranchi district of Jharkhand at an elevation of 600 meters. It flows for a length of 395 kilometers before outfalling into the Bay of Bengal. The major part of the basin is covered with agricultural land. 3.1.3 Batarani-Brahmani rivers. The Batarani is one of the important east-flowing rivers of peninsular India and joining the Bay of Bengal. The river rises in the hill ranges of Kunjar district of Orissa at an elevation of about 900 meters. The basin is surrounded by the Brahmani on the south and west, the Subarnarekha on the north, the Burganbalang and the Bay of Bengal on the east. The river is flashy in nature, having a total length of 355 kilometers, with the upper reach up to Anandapur in the hilly region. The Brahmani is a major interstate east-flowing river amongst the peninsular rivers in India. The basin is bounded in the north by Chotar Nagpur Plateau, in the west and south by the Mahanadi Basin and in the east by the Bay of Bengal. The basin flows through Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Orissa and drains into the Bay of Bengal. 3.1.4 Sabarmati River. The Sabarmati Basin extends over states of Rajasthan and Gujarat, having an area of 21,674 sq.km with maximum length and width of 300 km and 150 km. The basin is bounded by Aravalli Hills on the north and northeast, by Run of Kutch on the west and by Gulf of Khambhat on the south. The basin is roughly triangular in shape with the Sabarmati River as the base and the source of the Vitrak River as the apex point. Sabarmati originates from Aravalli Hills at an elevation of 762 meters in Rajasthan. The total length of the river from origin 43 to outfall into the Arabian Sea is 371 kilometers, and its principal tributaries joining from left are the Vakal, the Hathmati and the Vitrak, whereas the sea joins the river from right. 3.2 Smaller rivers flowing towards the west. The rivers flowing towards Arabian Sea have smaller and short courses. The Shetranji is one such river which rises in the Dalkavanin Amreli district. The river Bhadra originates near Anayali village in Rajkot district. The Dhadar rises near Ghantar village in Panchmahal district. This river rises from the Trimbak hills in Nasik district at an elevation of 670 meters. Kalinadi rises from Belgaum district and falls in the Karwar Bay. The source of Bedti river lies in Hubli Davor and transverse a course of 161 kilometers. The Shravati originates in Shimoga district of Karnataka and drains a catchment area of 2,209 square kilometers. Mandovi and Wari are two important rivers in Goa. Bhartapura rises in the Annamalai hills in Kerala. Also known as Ponnani, it drains a catchment area of about 5,397 square kilometers. The Periyar is the second largest river in Kerala with catchment area of 5,243 square kilometers. Another important river is Pamba, which drains into Vembanad Lake after traversing a course of 177 kilometers. 4. Lakes of India. Vular Lake, Kashmir, India's largest freshwater lake, formed by tectonic forces, forms delta with river Jhelum. Dal Lake, Kashmir, freshwater lake in Srinagar. Contains Char Chinar and Nami Islands. Mansar Lake, Jammu, on the Katra Highway, freshwater lake, natural lake used mainly for fishing. Naini Lake, Uttarakhand, freshwater lake. Sambhar Lake, Rajasthan, most saline lake in India, listed in Ramsar as a wetland. Pushkar Lake, Ajmer, Rajasthan, a freshwater lake. Pachpadra Lake, Badma, Rajasthan, a saline lake. Debar Lake, Rajasthan, largest artificial lake of India, a freshwater lake. Naki Lake, a bowl-shaped lake, located in Mt. Abu, Rajasthan. Nal Sarovar Lake, saline water lake located in Gujarat, largest bird sanctuary of Gujarat. Nokrek Lake, freshwater lake located in Meghalaya, famous for its biodiversity, Nokrek National Park and Biosphere Reserve. Loktak Lake, Manipur, largest freshwater lake located in any India, floating island, Fundus. Bhoj Wetland, a highly polluted lake surrounded by city of Bhopal. Kankaria Lake, biggest artificial lake of Ahmedabad, built by Sultan Ahmad Shah. Lonar Lake, crater lake, located at Maharashtra. Chilka Lake, saline water lagoon located at Orissa, Siberian bird migrate here in winters. Usman Sagar artificial lake of Hyderabad, by creating a dam on river Musi. Koleru Lake freshwater lake, situated between deltas of Godavari and Krishna, a bird sanctuary and a wetland under the Ramsar list. 4. Pulicat Lake saltwater lagoon located at the coast of Andhra Pradesh, separated from the sea by Sriharikota Island. Sholavaram A rainfed reservoir, located at Thanjavur in Chennai, due to scanty rainfall for the last few years, lake looks like a pond. Vembanad, Kerala A lagoon, famous for boat competition. Ashtamudi, Kerala a lagoon, under Ramsar Convention. Pangong Lake, Ladakh, located between India and China, Tibet, nearby Changla Pass. Samoriri Lake, largest high-altitude lake, located at Ladakh. Chandratal, a high-altitude lake, located at Lahaul and Spiti districts of Himachal nearby Kunzam Pass. Chandra River, a major tributary of Chenab, originated from Chandratal, declared as a wetland under the Ramsar Convention. Surajtal, located below Baralacha Pass at Lahaul and Spiti districts of Himachal, remains frozen during the greater part of the year. Roopkund Mystery Lake of Uttarakhand, also known as Skeleton Lake, since 672 skeletons has been found in this shallow lake. Sukhna Lake, Chandigarh, artificial freshwater lake. Sattal, quiet and calm group of 7 pristine lakes in lower Himalayan range situated near Bhimtal in Uttarakhand. 5. River regimes. The pattern of flow of water in a river channel over a year is known as its regime. The climatic condition of any place or region controlled the flow of the river system. The river regime is the pattern of the seasonal flow of water in any river. In other words, the geographical pattern of rivers like width, depth, slope, distribution, and its flow and deposition characters altogether can be considered as river regimes. The rivers in North India originating from the Himalayas are perennial as they are fed by melting snow from glaciers and also due to adequate rainfall during the monsoons. The rivers in south of India which originates in the peninsular region sees more fluctuations in terms of perenniality. 45. They receive water only through rainfall during the monsoons. Therefore, river regimes in South India see different river regimes which vary from one part of the plateau to the other depending on rainfall. The river discharge is the volume of water that flows through the river in a particular time period. It is either measured in cusics, cubic feet per second, or cumecs, cubic meters per second. The river Ganga has its minimum flow during the months of January to June. The maximum flow is attained in monsoon months of August and September. After September there's a steady decline in the flow. The river thus have a monsoon regime during the rainy season. There is a striking difference between the river regimes of eastern and western parts of the Ganga basin. Right after the winters in the early parts of summer, when the snow melts, there is sizable flow in Ganga, before the monsoon rains begin. The maximum discharge of the Ganga is at Farakka, which is about 55,000 cusics, while the minimum discharge is only 1300 cusics. This contrast is due to maximum discharge being noted right after monsoons and the minimum discharge during the hottest summer months. The rivers of peninsular India are also interesting in their pattern of river regime. The Narmada has a very low volume of discharge from January to July and it suddenly rises in August when the river has maximum flow. The water flow again suddenly falls during the month of October once the monsoon is over. The river Godavari has a minimum discharge in the month of May and maximum in the months of July-August. After August, the flow of the river declines, but it is still steady and more than that of January-May. Difference between peninsular river regime and the Himalayan river regime. Basis of differences. Reason. Origin. The peninsular rivers rise at much lower heights in the western Ghats, whereas the Himalayan river originates at high elevations. Source. The Himalayan rivers are perennial, which means they receive water from glacier and rainfall, whereas the peninsular rivers are non-perennial, which means they are seasonal, dependent on monsoon. Catchment area. The peninsular river have narrow catchment area, whereas the Himalayan rivers have large catchment area. Larger catchment area ensures maximum flow of water. Variations. The peninsular rivers have huge variations due to uneven rainfall in the plateau region, whereas all the Himalayan rivers maintain a sizable flow. Gradual increase, decrease in flow. The Himalayan rivers has a minimum flow during Jan-June and maximum flow during August, September and gradual steady fall afterwards, whereas the peninsular rivers has very low flow from January-July and a sharp rise in August and again a sudden fall in October. Supply of groundwater. The peninsular river flows from the rocks of peninsular region which are hard and impermeable, where supply of groundwater is limited, whereas Himalayan rivers pass through plains whose alluvial soils act as a huge reservoir of groundwater. 4.6. 6. Extent of usability of water. The extent of usability of water depends on a lot many things. Since rivers and river waters are unevenly distributed over both time and space, usability of water is also variable. It depends on the following. No availability in sufficient quantity. This depends on the discharge of the water, whether the river is perennial or seasonal. River water pollution. If the river water is extremely polluted, it is deemed unfit for consumption and any other utility like agricultural purposes, drinking purposes, industrial or household purposes. Load of silt in the river water. If the level of silt in the river increases, it causes lower carrying capacity of the river. The amount of water discharge is reduced and thus usability is less. However, often it happens that when the carrying capacity of the river is reduced due to excess silt and the river discharge is high, such situations often results in flooding activities on the river bank. Uneven seasonal flow of water. Flow of water depends on the availability of the source of water, climate and terrain of the region. Lesser water flow means less usability of water. River water disputes between states. The disputes between river water usability arises when two states fight over the usability of water. Generally, if a river is flowing through many states, there is often an agreement between the states on how much water each state can use. This often results in long-lasting disputes and thus puts a cap on water usability. Shrinking of channels due to extension of settlement towards the river, often due to overpopulation, overcrowding and overuse of water resources. The channels start shrinking. As much as built-up area increases near the streams and channels,